Hello everyone, and welcome to my channel, Cooking for the Family. I'm Dyvonne, and today I'm going to share with you how to make these wonderful cloverleaf rolls. And I'm going to share with you how to make them using the Jiffy Baking mix. Now these rolls are great to make if you're a beginner when it comes to working with yeast. So in my bowl I have 3 tablespoons of warm water, and then to that I'm adding in my yeast, my dry yeast, and that was 2 teaspoons plus 1/4 of a teaspoon. So again, that was 2 teaspoons plus 1/4 of a teaspoon. You can also use 1 packet of dry yeast. 1 packet of dry yeast also has the equivalent of 2 teaspoons and 1/4 of a teaspoon in there. So once I have my yeast in, you see how I went on and mixed it. We're going to mix that because we're going to let this sit for about 5 minutes just to kind of get it started, let it get kind of nice and frothy. Now after about 5 minutes I add in a tablespoon of sugar, because yeast, in order for it to grow, it really likes that sugar. And so we're gonna put that 1 tablespoon of sugar, then I mix that around so we can dissolve the sugar with the yeast. Now I'm going to let this sit until it gets nice and frothy. Now while it's getting nice and frothy, we're going to melt our butter. So I'm going to be melting 6 tablespoons of butter, and I'm using unsalted butter. Now if you don't have any butter on hand, you can actually substitute the butter for margarine as well. So either way, you can use butter or margarine, and with the butter I'm using unsalted butter. So I have my flame on a low heat. I'm going to go ahead and gently just start to melt my butter. Now once my butter is nice and melted, then I'm going to add in some milk, and I'm using whole milk, and with our milk I'm putting in 3/4 of a cup of whole milk, and just go ahead and mix the milk and the butter together, because what we're doing is we are warming our milk and making sure that the milk and the butter is nice and warm together. Now after a few minutes, what I do is I go ahead and I turn the flame off, and then I also check on our yeast, and you see how it's nice and frothy, and we have that foam and we have those little bubbles that's in there. Our yeast is looking so good. Now in order for us to add our yeast that we just built up to our milk and our butter, we need to kind of cool it, okay? And so while this is cooling, I'm going to also add in our sugar, and that was 2 tablespoons of sugar. So at this time I went on and I turned off my flame, because I want to make sure that the butter and the milk are warm, but I don't want it hot. And so I don't want to add our yeast to it hot. And so I went on and I turned it off. I mixed it around. That helps to cool it off. You can also move it off the eye as well. That also helps to cool it off. Now once my sugar is dissolved and the butter and the milk has cooled down quite a bit, then we're going to add our yeast mixture straight to the pot, just like that. And make sure that you get all of your yeast mixture. And then I mix the two together. So I'm mixing in the yeast mixture, and you're going to have some bubbles, and that's what you want. You want to make sure that you do have a little bit of frothiness and still a little bit of bubbles. Now we can go ahead and get together our dry ingredients. So for the dry ingredients, we're using our Jiffy Baking mix, and then to our Jiffy Baking mix we're also going to be adding in some flour. So total we're going to be using 3 cups of the Jiffy Baking mix. Now the Jiffy Baking mix, it can tend to clump up a little bit, and so what you want to do is you just want to be mindful that you don't pack too much into your measuring cup. So when I scoop it, I aerate it a little bit while it's still right there inside the box, and so that is a little bit better than me trying to pour it into my measuring cup, because then it just goes all over the countertop. Now also I added a 1/2 cup of flour as well, and I'm using unbleached all-purpose flour, and you can use also just regular all-purpose flour. So after I have my 3 cups of the Jiffy Baking mix and the 1/2 cup of flour, I went on and mixed everything around. Now I have my 1 large egg at room temperature. Go ahead and beat your egg really good and add that to the bowl of your dry ingredients. Now if you add the egg to the dry ingredients, then we're going to go ahead and we're going to also add in our mixture that we have, which is the milk, the sugar, and also our yeast, and so also the butter. So those things that were in our pot earlier, we add the whole mix right to our dry ingredients. I'm going to use my spatula to mix and blend everything around, and I'm going to do that by kind of doing a folding motion where I go around the sides, and you see how I mix and then I also fold as well, because we want to make sure that all of the dry ingredients and the wet ingredients combine into one. Be sure to go around the edge of your bowl as well as into the center. And then what you'll find is that the dough starts to form a really loose kind of ball. Basically, it's what's going to form. And so and also the dough is going to be sticky. Okay, this is going to be a sticky dough. So once you have everything blended in, and something you may notice is that with the baking mix, you might have like little tiny speckles of dry baking mix. That's okay if you have, a few of those throughout. Those are going to blend out once we knead our dough. So I cover it with my kitchen cloth. I'm going to put it to the side. We're going to let this go ahead and rise for 1 hour or till it's double in size. So now it has rested our dough. It's been an hour. It has doubled up in size, and I had checked it earlier. So it had doubled up in size, and this is what it's looking like. It's going to be looking a little rough on top, but we're going to be smoothing it out as we knead our dough. I go ahead and punch my dough down, deflate it a bit, and then take it out of my bowl. And I'm using a glass bowl. You can use a ceramic bowl or a silver bowl. Either one of those will work fine. Now to my surface, and you want to have a nice clean surface that you're working with, I put down a little bit of my flour, and then I'm going to go ahead and start to knead our dough. And so when it comes time to kneading the dough, we're going to be kneading our dough for about 10 to 12 minutes until it becomes nice and smooth, sticky, and it becomes this really nice pliable dough, and that's what we're looking for. And so when it comes time to kneading, how you knead is you want to push the dough away from you using your palms. You want to fold the dough over onto itself, and then you're going to gather the dough back towards you using your fingertips of your hand. And so you just want to do that motion back and forth where I'm pushing it away, I fold it over, and that's what you want to do. Now, if you need a little bit more flour, you can put some more flour down on your work surface, and you want to keep doing that motion. And we're going to do this for about 10 to 12 minutes. Our dough has become nice and soft. It's going to feel really pliable. And then also, if you go and you lift your dough up, gravity should take effect, and the dough will just kind of like pull down, and it's just going to look so nice. It's going to feel really good in our hand. And so that's how you knead your dough. So be mindful of your clock, because you do want to make sure that you knead your dough no less than 10 minutes, but no more than 12 minutes, right around there. And so once we're done, our dough ball should feel nice and soft. We have kneaded it well. And so now what we're going to do is we're going to be putting our dough into our muffin tins. I have very generously put some soft butter into my muffin tins. This is going to make 12, you can get up to 14 depending on the size. We're going to do ours about the size of, say, like a walnut, round about there. And so I'm going to go ahead and cut my dough. And what I like to do is, so each muffin tin, we're going to put 3 round pieces of dough ball. Okay, and so with the dough ball, you're going to go ahead and shape it nice and round, and just make sure that you don't have too much dough in each of your rounds. So about the size of, like, say, a walnut, round about there. And then what I like to do is, what's easiest to do is that I know that I need 3 per each muffin tin, and then I have a total of 12 tins, so that means that I'm going to need 36 dough balls. And so it's easier to just go ahead, I use my bench scraper there and section off my dough so I can make my 36 rounds of the dough. Then once I have my balls all lined up, I just go ahead and put 3 per each round muffin tin, and just put them in there just like that. Now once we have all of our dough balls in our muffin tins, I just put them side by side, because this is going to, as they bake later, we'll be able to pull them apart. So it's our nice cloverleaf rolls that we'll be able to pull apart. I'm going to cover this with my kitchen towel, going to let it rest for about 20 minutes. And I'll put this next to my stove in a nice warm place so that way it can rest, and it's also going to rise a bit. So it's been 20 minutes. We've let our dough balls rest. Now I have in my bowl 1 large egg And then with the large egg, my large egg is also at room temperature. I also added in 1 tablespoon of water to my egg, and then you're going to brush the tops of your dough balls with your beaten egg. My oven is preheating on 400 degrees. Once it comes up to temperature, we're going to go ahead, put our rolls in. They're going to bake for 12 to 15 minutes till they're golden brown. I've made some pot roast in the crock pot to go with our dinner. In the description box below, I'll go ahead and put a link to my vlog on my pot roast in the crock pot dinner. So now our rolls are out of the oven. I have some nice butter that is softened that I'm brushing the tops of my rolls with. Everything is looking good. It's smelling good. Our pot roast is ready. It's almost time for the family to have dinner. Everyone's come back home now from the day. I go ahead and sprinkle a little bit of flat leaf parsley right on top as well. And so our rolls are ready. Let's pull them apart. I'm going to put some butter on them. You guys are going to get the first bite. And there's just something about these rolls that pull apart. It brings back so many memories because we had Cloverleaf Rolls at my grandmother's house. Well, this first bite's for you. Now I'm going to take my bite and see how we did. Wow. These rolls bring back so many memories. I hope you give this recipe a try. If you haven't subscribed, go on and click that subscribe button. If you like this video and appreciate the content, don't forget to show it some love, give it a thumbs up, and click share. Share this video with a friend or a family. And remember, it's always good when Dyvonne is cooking for the family. I'll see you on the next one. Bye-bye.